Greetings, freaks and folks, this is Vlad the Lad, and welcome to the Dragon meta. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should stick around for a moment, because this is going hot. We're going to check out the patch notes, the 2.18.0 notes. Together, I want to give a very short glimpse on my opinion on all of these cards. There are a lot of content creators like Grappler, Mogwai Swim, and BBG. I checked all of their videos and I partly agree and partly disagree on them. If you want to check out them, you can do that. They have 40 minutes videos. I want to do it a little shorter, and without any further ado, let's jump into those changes. So first and foremost, they talk about their philosophy, their patch philosophy, what they're doing. Basically, they want to do more frequent card updates. They want to buff underperformers and they want to nerf overperformers. And this should result into more region diversity and also shake up the meta. And also that you experiment more around with it. That's basically what they say in this text here. And they're also saying that you should expect sort of this kind of patch that you see right here in the future, and they want to do this more frequent. This is their goal. If they will do this or not, we'll see in the future. Because I think we can all agree that frequent changes are good for everybody, and if they do a mistake, they can revert it afterwards. And spoilers ahead, they did a mistake in this patch. We'll talk about it in a second. So to start things off, we start with the champions. The first one is Nami, and they just made it so that you need one more spell mana to gain to level her up. She still levels in the deck, so she basically stays the same, you just need one more mana. And this is a very big deal because you can't consistently level her on turn 4, which was the main problem with her. I think this is a very healthy approach to not over-nerf her, because I also don't think that she is extremely good. Most of the time, when I played Demacia, for example, she's very weak to challenges to deal with them, so she has her weaknesses, what I want to say here. Overall, a very good change, and I'm happy they did that. Next up, we have Draven. He lost 1 HP. Sort of a rip, so to say, because the difference between 3 and 2 HP is a very big deal, especially for a 3-drop. I think this change is very debatable. I never really liked Draven too much, so I'm not too annoyed that he got nerfed, but I guess most of you guys are. I still think he will be competitive in Draven Scion, and I think he will still see play. Tristana now grants herself impact as well, not only her followers on her level 2 form, and this is a very big change in my opinion, and makes her viable as well. You can quote me on that, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm happy that they go with that route. They also nerfed her in the second place with nerfing some multi-region followers that we'll see in a second. But other than that, she now makes an impact, because she now not only removes something when she attacks, right? You could just jump block her with a 1/1 and then her attack was dead. But now you can't do this anymore. She will still have the stacked impact. It's very important that you can stack it on her, all these impacts, and then she will just strike and blow damage to the enemy nexus right away. And by the way, I think I want to try Harrowing and Dawn and Dusk with her. Next up, we have Nocturne, that now has a level 2, a Nightfall effect. That's basically the same effect that he has on his level 1 form, and in my opinion, this should have been so from the get-go. They now did it, finally. Not much more to say about this. You only will see this in play when you play your second Nocturne, because you always have this Nightfall effect basically when he's not leveled yet, when you haven't played the first one, right? So the second one will have this effect now. Echo needs now 1 Predict less to level up, and I think this is a very right way to go. I would even go further and say that you can also make it a 3+. Then you could also turbo level him on Shurium, which is kind of a problem, but I think that he would be way better with the 3+ times, because then you could play him in PNZ only, because there are very few Predict PNZ cards, and so you're always forced to play Shurium with him, which is a bummer. He, in the first place, has a 2 HP body for 4 mana, so he's pretty weak at that, and you can remove him really easily. So I think this is even a 3+ wouldn't be too overpowered in my opinion. Maybe you can give your own opinion in the comments down below. Azol gets reverted to a place where he needs 20+ total power to level up. He was so in the first place when he came out, and he was problematic there, and I'm a bit scared that he will get problematic again. You can now level him with 1 Feel Rush. You pull him out and your other champion, and he levels right away. So I think this was probably not necessary, especially if you look at all these other changes that we'll see in a second for dragons. Renekton now needs 2 damage less to deal, in order to level up, and this makes Mono Streamer way better. This makes this champion overall so much better, and I'm happy that they did this with my boy Renekton, especially for my deck with David and Goliath. If you don't know what I'm talking about, up there is a video if you want to see that in action, my deck. I just want to say that it happens so often that you have 10 or 11 attack, or 10 or 11 out of 12 with Renekton, either on 1 or 2 strikes, and now he levels right after that, so yeah, he's quite scary now. Then we have Lux, which I would call almost not a rework, but having this 1 turn earlier is have so much implications. First and foremost, if you play her on turn 5, she comes down, and then on turn 6, you have guaranteed a level up for her. And you have a spark on turn 6 right away. You can even make it so that you level her on turn 5 if you have the Flash of Brilliance, and then you play another 3-mana spell. You can level her even on turn 5. So this is pretty insane, considering that she still has the 5 HP, she still preserves the health body, which is the most important part about engines like her, right? So you don't really care about the attack. She got lowered 1 attack, and she got buffed even further. Now you can attack the Nexus right away if the enemy doesn't have any units on the field. This happens quite a bit if you have a Spark in hand and he doesn't play a card, so you can't kill the unit and then damage the Nexus afterwards. You can now right away attack the Nexus in that case. Very nice buff overall, and I'm definitely looking forward to build with her and experiment what is working and it's not. I think even maybe a Shen Lux deck is now funny, because you can actually curve out turn 4 Shen and turn 5 Lux. We'll see about that. Quinn gets 1 HP more. This is sort of weak in a vacuum. If you look at her, like if you want to attack with her on turn, she comes down on turn 5, and then you attack 2 times because of her scout ability, and she can be removed even at 1 attack if the enemy has a 5 damage blocker, which is not very unlikely at turn 5. But the thing is that she's in the master and you can buff her, right? So this 1 HP may go a long way, especially I'm a bit concerned that Scouts will come back with MF Scouts, so Misfortune, because they reverted her nerf as well. She now has Overwhelm as well. And I know a time back in the day where Misfortune Scouts with Quinn was a problem, and it's probably could be in the future again. So Braum gets 1 HP more, which is a massive, massive deal for a regeneration unit. You really have to consider that. Other than that, he levels up and gets the same +1/+1 as usual. In my opinion, maybe the Anivia Braum deck, which was also problematic for some time, may come back because of that. I may be wrong about this, but this makes him so much more reliable, and especially if you can attack on a 5 attack unit, you can attack 2 times into it and he levels right away, because now he can basically go 5 damage down for 2 turns and then he levels right away. Normally you would need 3 turns to level him. This is also a massive deal. Yeah, Sparklefly was about to happen, especially if you compare it to other elusive units and other lifesteal units. Sparklefly combines these 2 keywords in 1 unit for 2 mana, which was always way too strong. And you, especially for Nami Zoe, it's important because you can't tutor her out with the moon weapons anymore. Overall, really happy, but I don't think that Sparklefly will see any play, at least competitively speaking, in the near future. Twinblade Revenant now only has Fearsome instead of Challenger, which is a really interesting way to go. This is sort of a rework for a unit that works completely different. Now it works more of an aggro type, which always was the DNA of Noxus, right? So I think this is also a healthy way to go to balance that card in a sense, because beforehand you could kind of control the board and never run out of value, because you can always replay the Lost Soul, and you still can do that. So I think that's also a healthy way to balance that card in a way, because it was way too strong with the Challenger for sure. The Tenor of Terror and the Base of Burden got totally butchered. The Tenor of Terror lost 1 damage and the Base of Burden lost 1 HP, so it 2 stats nerf from the unit. You still have the 2 damage guaranteed because of the impact, and they still are a 2 summon dual region follower, which is important for Tristana, for example. So it will still see play. but I think this is not played as much as it was before. Before it was almost in every deck, especially in aggro decks, and it may go down there, and I think they budgeted too much. Maybe the base of burden 1 HP would be enough of a nerf. Next up we have Relentless Pursuit, which is now a 4 mana spell and grants a target ally +1/+1. So it's basically a worse Golden Aegis in that sense. I mean, Golden Aegis is only barrier for one round. Here you grant +1/+1. It's debatable, but most of the time a barrier is just way stronger. Very important now, Rally will no longer be 3 mana in general, so you can't just play it with spell mana up, and you can threaten the enemy with a rally only with spell mana up, and you definitely burn if you pass over the initiative. This is most of the time a aggro nerf, and not so much for mid-range and for late game. There are no really late game decks with rally, but mid-range decks won't, for them it won't be that hard, this nerf. And also it's a significant buff for Taric. It's also very important because you can now target Taric and then you can double up the rally. It's hard to rate if this was needed, but I like this quite a lot, this change. And then we have Stone Stackers, which no longer has Tough, and now has 2/3 instead, 2/3 state line instead of 2/2. So basically it's a nerf in a total, but it won't be unplayable. It still has vanilla stat line 2/3 for 2 mana and still has impact, so aggro decks will still run it, and I think it's okay. This was also to be expected, a nerf for Aloof Travelers, but they got hit really hard, -2 stats, minus attack and minus health. They no longer can block into fearsomes, which is really important to note. The difference between 2 and 3 attack is always very important because of that. And yeah, it still has this really strong effect, it stayed the same, that you will discard the strongest enemy card from the enemy hand. So yeah, I think it's now a fair card for 4 mana, and you will still run it in certain decks, especially in Teemo decks, alongside other things. Then we have Moondreamer with more of an insignificant buff. It got up to a 3/6, has 1 HP more now. This was not really the issue with Moondreamer. I think the issue is the 3 attacks, so if you make it a 4/5, it will be viable in my opinion, but having a 3/6 for 5 mana, problem with it is that you have Invoke, and you invoke anything, right? You don't have this narrow range from what you can choose from. You can do this with Solar Priestess, for example, and Zoe and her spell, right? But you can't do this here with the Moondreamer, and this goes also for the Lunari Priestess, which is our next card, and she got buffed to 1 HP. Don't really know if she needed that. Like I said, the problem is that you don't have this narrow range where you have specific cards that you want to actually go for. And the Solar Priestess was really strong, will now be way stronger because she now gets 1 attack more for, I don't know what reason, maybe for the symmetry, is it symmetry? I don't really go with that, just to have this symmetry for the sake of it. Buffing a unit or a card that was already really good. Same goes for the Ten of Terror here and the Base of Burden. I think they also swapped it for symmetry issues, and I think this is the wrong way to go. So I go with this Lunari Priestess buff. That's fine, but the Solar Priestess should stay the same it was. Revan the Daylight Spear got 1 HP more, which is a big deal. For 5 mana, most of the time you have a 5 attack unit, and he can trade evenly into it. Just remember, Jack the Winner was a 5/6 in the first place, and he was a big problem. Probably Revan will go in that case, because his effect is also really strong. He's a must-have in every Daybreak deck, and he is the core, basically, of the Daybreak deck to constantly stun units together with Leona and Revan. It will make the Archetype Daybreak stronger for sure, but I don't know if Daybreak will ever be very viable, because you can kind of predict what happens in Daybreak, right? Because you play this first card and then that's it. Then we have the Scourge, which now has Overwhelm. In my opinion, totally unnecessary change, because now they have not only the Phoenix and also the Great Beyond, now they have even the Scourge with the Targan, Invoke, Star Shaping and Asol. They have these upper invokes from 7 to 10 mana, and now you have kind of guaranteed one of the win conditions, right? Most of the time people won't pick the Scourge because you can just jump block it, but and you need a board to actually do damage. but now it does a lot of damage itself. I don't really go with this change. I liked it the way it was beforehand, but it is what it is. And now we come to the sickest buff of all of them and the whole patch, which is the Dragon's Clutch. Was a clutch change for sure, as now Dragon allies not only grant +1/+1, which was beforehand the case, now they even get grant Overwhelm. And Overwhelm is like the keyword that dragons always wanted. And now you grant, not give, every dragon on your board Overwhelm for 3 mana at burst speed. And this is a big mistake in my opinion. You will see this as 3-off in every dragon deck, and you will see a lot of dragon decks in the next weeks. That's why I said welcome to the dragon meta in the first place when I started this video. I kinda like it as a dragon player, but I will hate it at some point, and probably you will do as well in the near future, because this is just a burst speed pack thing. Gather the pack, or what is it called, for 7 mana, a slow speed, +2/+2 and Overwhelm for all your units. Here you have it at burst speed for 3 mana, which is kind of ridiculous. And I think it's a mistake, and they will regret it for sure in the near future. And it goes even further. We have the Ruined Dragon Guard, which is now a 3/4 instead of a 2/4. So like I said before, he now can trade, or not trade, but he can block into fearsome units, which is a big deal. He is a 3 mana 3/4 himself, which is already vanilla stats. And he has this insane ability. If you look at this video up here, this was the dude which helped me to get to Masters in my Dragon deck. And they even buffed that dude for whatever reason. He's an engine, he needs HP, but why does he also need attack? I don't get the idea. Like I said, together with the other change, this is probably a mistake. But here the train doesn't stop. We even have the Herald of Dragons, which discounts all your dragons by 1, and normally you would ping this away and kill it right away before it makes any trouble, but now you have it at 2 HP. So you need a Mystic Shot or whatever to remove it, and you can consistently play Shyvana on 3, which also got buffed in the past, by the way. So dragons, if dragons were ever in a good spot, this is the patch where dragons just go through the roof and they will be all over the place. This is for sure. And I don't think that the conjunction of all of these changes that they did was a good idea. For example, in this change right here, I like the idea of giving Overwhelm to some dragons, or to a dragon in general, but don't make it grant and don't make it for everything. Just make it for 1 and would be sort of balanced. Then we have Faces of the Old Ones, which has now 1 HP more. The most important thing about this is that you can now play Blighted Ravine and Avalanche and not kill your own ramp units in your ramp decks. And other than that, you can block into some little units without it dying right away. Overall, a healthy buff in my opinion. And the Vanguard Sergeant got 1 HP more. I will just leave this meme here and won't say anything about that. And last but not least, we have Death and Ada, which now will also apply the buff damage on your darknesses, on the darkness that a Death and Ada creates. And I think this is kind of toxic. People don't see this as a problem right now, but in my opinion it will be a problem in the future, because with even a 7/6 body on top of it, we have seen this with Riptide Rex, which was a big problem. It was an 8/6 I think in the back in the day, and it was a board clearer at turn 8, and you even need to plunder. You don't need to plunder with Death and Ada. You just play it and then you board wipe the enemy. And then you have a 7/6 to hit the enemy nexus. I think this is a bit overtuned. It's, of course, it sort of fits all this darkness thing, where normally the darkness should grow up with your Veigar and also with this little big head dude. But just make it so that the body isn't that strong anymore. This would be sort of a balance out for the buff that Death and Ada now got. We'll see in the future how big of a problem that will be or not. And to wrap things up, some minor changes. They make it so creating cards can create themselves, and the ones that exist right now, like Trinket, Trade the Traveler and Looping Telescope. Looping Telescope being maybe the most important of all of these, and they will not do this in the future, that creating cards can create themselves. Very important note here, we have the Lab of Legends, Saltwater Scourge and the Ultra Rapid Draw, which will cycle out on November 10th, so if you want to play any more Lab of Legends and stuff, you should do this until that point. And if you need any help, up there is a guide how to League of Legends. It's a bit old at that point, but it still has the core mechanics and explanations. You can check that out. They also made it so that round start effects will now resolve at the same time, not by the active player. So they make a sample here that if you have both the battle tree at 10, then you will have a draw. Instead of the active player will actually win the game. They also do this with unit killing effects, which is really funny because if you both have a leveled up Viego and the next turn begins, and the Viego is the strongest unit on both sides, they kill each other. Technically, this is how I see it, and that would be really funny to experience. But a good thing to go, in my opinion, because it makes the game more fair. Let's go with that. And they have some bug fixes. I just want to point out the most important ones. We have Mimic that doesn't show the created card that you copy with the Mimic anymore to the enemy, which is, in my opinion, a really big deal, and I think a really healthy thing to do with Mimic, because it doesn't see so much play. Pranks can now target landmarks, which is also extremely important, and also Senna can't create another darkness anymore, so you normally would put the darkness on top of the stack, and then you attack with your Senna, and then you get created another darkness in hand. You can't do this anymore, so I'm happy that darkness got nerfed a little bit, because I have to be honest that I kind of got annoyed by the darkness archetype a little bit, and seeing the status and ADA buff here up there was kind of toxic to me, and I was happy that at least it got a little fix with this darkness thing right here. And that wraps up everything for this video and the patch. Thanks for sticking around. Tomorrow there will be finally a gameplay video again. I promised you that for the last weekend, but I took the time off with my girlfriend. Also have a community page now, you can definitely check that out. I will keep you posted there. And like I said, already recorded some gameplay with a new deck that fortunately for me didn't get touched too much, or I think not anything at all by this patch, and I will definitely post this gameplay tomorrow. So thanks again for watching. If you liked it, clicking the like button would be awesome, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, I guess. If you haven't already, subscribing up here is also a really good idea, and my last gameplay video will be on this side. So yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow, and until then, you stay legendary. Vlad out.